The crash of my prototype hitting the wall echoed through our shared apartment, followed immediately by the sound of shattering circuit boards and my roommate's laughter. I knelt on the floor, gathering the pieces of what had been 6 months of work, while Tyler filmed the whole thing for his Instagram story. "Look, guys, Sophia's playing entrepreneur again," he narrated to his phone. "What is it this time, Soph? Another world-changing app that'll never launch." Madison giggled from the couch, not looking up from her makeup tutorial. "Remember last month's revolutionary smart home device? The one that almost set the kitchen on fire? That was a minor electrical issue," I said quietly, cradling the broken remains of my newest prototype, a healthcare monitoring device I'd been developing for elderly care facilities. "Minor." Brad, our fourth roommate, emerged from his room in his consultant polo shirt. "The fire department came, Sophia. We almost got evicted." Speaking of which, Tyler zoomed his camera on the eviction notice he'd mockingly taped to the refrigerator last week. "How are you planning to make rent this month?" "Another loan from the bank of mommy and daddy." I carefully placed the broken pieces in a box, biting back the response that my parents had been gone since I was 17. They didn't know that, of course. Just like they didn't know a lot of things about me. "I'll make rent," I said simply. "Sure you will." Madison finally looked up, her fake eyelashes making her expression even more condescending. "Just like your startup will definitely get funding this time. Face it, Sophia. Some people are meant to be entrepreneurs, and some people are meant to work at Starbucks." "There's nothing wrong with working at Starbucks," I replied, standing with my box of broken dreams. "No, there isn't," Brad agreed with false sympathy. "In fact, I could probably get you an interview at the one near my office. They're always looking for reliable baristas." A knock at the door interrupted what would have undoubtedly been another lecture about getting a real job. Tyler groaned dramatically. "If that's another one of your sketchy suppliers, Sophia." I opened the door to find Martin Kozlowski, our landlord, standing in the hallway. He was an older Polish man who'd managed the building for as long as anyone could remember, always in the same worn cardigan and kind smile. "Ms. Torres," he said, his eyes crinkling with warmth. "I apologize for the intrusion." "Shit, is this about the fire?" Tyler quickly ended his live stream. "Because that was all." Martin held up a hand, his attention focused solely on me. "Ms. Torres, I was wondering if I might have a word? About purchasing your other buildings?" The silence that followed was so complete I could hear Mrs. Chen's television from 2 doors down. "I'm sorry," Madison said slowly. "Did you just say other buildings?" Martin looked confused, glancing between my roommates and me. "Yes, the acquisitions on 5th and 20th. My nephew, he is contractor, very reliable. He could handle the renovations you mentioned." I saw the exact moment realization began dawning on my roommates' faces. The moments they'd dismissed as me, playing with broken electronics, suddenly reframing themselves as something else entirely. "Martin," I said gently, "could we discuss this tomorrow?" "My office." Of course." He nodded respectfully. "I apologize for disturbing your evening." "Oh, and Ms. Torres? The new security system you installed last month, working perfectly. Tenants feel much safer." After he left, I closed the door and turned to find my 3 roommates staring at me like I'd grown a second head. "What?" Tyler said slowly. "The fuck was that about?" I walked to my room, still carrying my broken prototype. "Nothing important." "Buildings." Madison's voice had lost its usual snark. He said buildings. Plural. "You heard wrong," I suggested, though we all knew she hadn't. Brad, ever the consultant, was already on his laptop. Holy shit. "Sophia, is Torres Holdings yours?" I paused at my bedroom door. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Torres Holdings," he read from his screen, his voice getting higher with each word. "A real estate technology company that's been quietly buying and modernizing rent-controlled buildings in the city. Implementing smart building technology to reduce costs while keeping rents affordable. They own. Jesus Christ, they own 12 buildings. Including," he looked up at me, his face pale. "Including this one." "You own this building?" Madison whispered. "Technically, my company owns it," I admitted, too tired to keep up the pretense. "I live here because I like to understand my tenants' experiences firsthand." "But you let us." Tyler seemed to be having trouble forming complete sentences. "Let you mock me? Make fun of my prototypes? Treat me like a failure?" I shrugged. "You showed me who you are. That's valuable data." "Data?" Madison's voice cracked. I opened my bedroom door. "Every prototype you laughed at? They're all installed in my buildings now. The smart locks, the energy-efficient lighting systems, the health monitoring devices for elderly tenants. That fire hazard you mocked? It's now preventing actual fires in 6 buildings by detecting electrical issues before they become dangerous. But why hide it? Brad demanded. Why live like this? Why split rent with us when you own the fucking building? Because, I said simply, I wanted roommates, not sycophants. I wanted honest feedback on my prototypes, not yes men. And most importantly, I wanted to build a company that actually helps people, not just extracts rent from them. I thought about the years of work, starting with the small inheritance from my grandmother, buying my first building in foreclosure, living in a van while I renovated it myself, learning to code at night while working construction during the day. Every prototype tested first in my own living spaces before rolling out to tenants. The rent, Tyler said suddenly. Oh my God, the rent. We've been paying rent to you. We've been complaining about the landlord to the landlord. Technically, you've been paying rent to Torres Holdings, I corrected. It goes into the building maintenance fund. New boiler last winter, remember? That was your rent money at work. I'm going to be sick, Madison muttered. The startup competitions, Brad said slowly, puzzle pieces clicking together. The ones where you never won. You didn't need to win. You were just testing. Market research, I confirmed. See how investors react, what questions they ask, what concerns they raise. Then I go back and improve. Much cheaper than hiring consultants. My phone buzzed. An email from the city planning department about my latest acquisition. A building where I plan to pilot my integrated healthcare monitoring system for elderly residents. The same system whose prototype was currently in pieces thanks to Tyler's mockery. Sophia, Madison stood up, her perfectly contoured face struggling with an unfamiliar expression, humility. We've been horrible to you. Yes, I agreed simply. You have. Are you going to evict us? Tyler asked, his usual bravado completely gone. I considered it. The 3 of them had made my life miserable for 2 years, constantly belittling my work, my appearance, my ambitions. They'd created a hostile living environment that would have justified eviction, even if I hadn't owned the building. No, I said finally. But things are going to change. Anything, Brad said quickly. We'll do anything. First, you're going to actually read your lease. The one that requires tenants to maintain a respectful living environment. Second, you're going to participate in the building's new beta testing program. I need real user feedback on my prototypes, not mockery. And third, I looked directly at Tyler. You're going to use that Instagram following of yours for something useful. Feature stories about the tenants here. Mrs. Chen's flower shop. Marcus's music lessons. Real people trying to make it in this city. You want me to? Tyler blinked. Do good. Revolutionary concept, I know. My bedroom door opened before they could respond, and I saw a sight that would have been comical if it wasn't so satisfying. My 3 roommates standing in the hallway, looking at the space I'd called home for 2 years with entirely new eyes. They saw the workspace I'd built, not a messy corner with electronics, but a sophisticated lab with 3D printers, testing equipment, and walls covered in patents and certifications. They saw the business awards I'd never displayed in common areas, the letters from grateful tenants, the photos with city officials at building dedications. This whole time, Madison whispered. This whole time, I confirmed, closing the door on their stunned faces. The next morning, I woke to find the apartment transformed. My prototype had been carefully reconstructed and placed on the kitchen table with a note. We tried our best. Sorry. TMB. The dishes were done. The common areas were spotless. Someone had even fixed the wobbly table leg that had annoyed me for months. I was pouring coffee when Tyler emerged from his room, looking like he'd aged 5 years overnight. I stayed up all night researching you, he admitted. Torres Holdings. Your patents. The tenants you've helped. The families you kept from being displaced. He swallowed hard. I've been such an asshole. Yes, I agreed, handing him a cup of coffee. You have. That health monitoring device. He gestured to my reconstructed prototype. It's for the building on Maple Street, isn't it? The one with all the elderly residents. I nodded, surprised he'd made the connection. My grandmother lives there, he said quietly. She's mentioned the new owner who actually cares about old people. I didn't realize. Madison appeared next, makeup-free for possibly the first time since I'd known her. I called my dad last night. He's in commercial real estate. He says Torres Holdings is the most innovative property management company in the city. He's been trying to figure out who runs it for 2 years. He has. I couldn't hide my smile. He says whoever it is, they're either a genius or insane. Keeping rents below market rate while implementing million-dollar improvements. She looked at me with something approaching respect. Both. Little of both, I admitted. Brad joined us, laptop already open. I've run the numbers. Your model shouldn't work. The profit margins are too thin, the innovation costs too high. But somehow it works when you remember that tenants are people, not just revenue streams. I finished for him. When you reduce turnover by treating people well, when you prevent costly repairs with smart monitoring, when you build community instead of just collecting rent. It's brilliant, he breathed. It's absolutely brilliant. A knock at the door interrupted our conversation. Martin was back, this time with a young woman I recognized as one of my property managers. Ms. Torres, she said, slightly out of breath. I'm sorry to disturb you at home, but we have a situation. The elderly care facility on Maple, they want a tour today. The full board of directors. If they like what they see, they'll implement your system in all 40 of their locations. I felt the familiar thrill of a breakthrough moment. 40 facilities. Thousands of elderly residents who could be monitored for falls, medication compliance, emergency situations. It would save lives. Give me 30 minutes, I said. She nodded and left. I turned to find my roommates staring at me again. 40 facilities? Tyler said weakly. That's a lot of people who won't die alone because no one noticed they'd fallen, I said simply. A lot of families who'll sleep better knowing their loved ones are monitored. The prototype I broke, he said, his face crumbling. I broke your prototype the day before the biggest meeting of your career. I have backups, I assured him. I learned early on not to keep all my eggs in one basket, especially when living with people who think breaking things is funny. I headed to my room to change, then paused. Oh, and rent's due tomorrow. Same as always. Building maintenance doesn't stop just because you know who owns the place. About that, Madison said quickly. We were thinking, maybe we could pay in services instead? Tyler could document your work. I could help with social media. Brad could consult on scaling operations. I considered it. 3 months ago, I would have said no. But watching them process the reality of who I was, seeing genuine remorse and respect replacing mockery and dismissal. People could change, given the right circumstances. Submit a proposal, I said finally. Professional, detailed, with clear deliverables. I'll consider it. As I prepared for my meeting, listening to my roommates frantically discussing how they could contribute to Torres Holdings, I thought about the strange journey that had brought me here. From orphan teenager to van-dwelling construction worker to tech entrepreneur to property owner. Every step had taught me something valuable. But perhaps the most important lesson had come from these 3 roommates who dismissed me as a failure. Sometimes the best way to build something revolutionary isn't to announce it from the rooftops. Sometimes you build it quietly, prototype by prototype, building by building, life by life. Let them mock. Let them dismiss. Let them throw your prototypes against the wall. Then let them discover that the wall they threw it against belongs to you, along with the building it's in and the ground it stands on. That's when they learn that real success isn't about the show you put on. It's about the foundation you build when no one's watching. And my foundation? It was rock solid, rent-controlled, and revolutionizing affordable housing one smart building at a time. Their rent checks, as Tyler had so eloquently put it, suddenly felt much heavier. But not nearly as heavy as the weight of their assumptions crashing down around them.